You say you're eating clean, but you're still pretty fat. Might sound harsh, but I hear it so bloody much. A lot of people when I'm speaking to them in what should we call consultation, I ask them about their diet. I eat pretty clean. Does it sound familiar? Because it fucking goes on and on and on with repetitiveness for me. If you're eating clean, dude, or what is your definition of clean? Because it clearly isn't working for you. Now, it might sound harsh, but sometimes the truth is harsh. And we're going to get into it today. We're going to get into what actually is eating healthy, what you should be doing to actually see results in your diet instead of just tricking yourself and thinking that you're doing the right things when really you're doing a lot of the wrong things. And I don't mean child porn. Anyway, what we're going to be doing, what is eating healthy? Your basal metabolic rate, or you may hear this referred to as a BMR, and your macronutrient needs. So these are the three macronutrients: carbohydrates, fats, and protein. The power of tracking, and I'll also add weighing in there as well. And again, I'm not talking about tracking the girls down that you've been stalking on Facebook for the past 2 years, because that shit doesn't actually do what you want it to do. Sometimes you'll well, a lot of the time you'll end up behind bars, and that's the last thing we want. It's actually tracking your food and what you're actually putting in your mouth that you consume, and not just play with. The quality of your food choices. So, whether you're going out to a fine dining restaurant compared to the shite that is the Golden Arches, and where your food's actually coming from. Is it being ripped open out of a package, ultra processed, or is it coming right out of the farm down the road, right from the baby cow's ass? Who knows? Portion control. So essentially how to build your plate to be suitable for what you actually need. And I've just realized I'm super, super small right now. And I'm going to be a little bit bigger. There we go. And then finally, consistency and balance. So consistency, what it actually means for when it comes to the diet, and how to balance the diet overall. Because it's just as bad being super, super strict and avoiding all the social occasions and, just eating your chicken broccoli rice in your dark room and getting to bed for 6 p.m. every single night. It's not very fun. I mean, I was doing that. I'm still doing that. And I can say, don't do that. Anyway, moving on to the next slide. Moving to what is eating healthy. Now, this is super subjective at first. So there is no real definition for eating healthy. It depends on you. It depends on what you're doing. It depends on what your body needs. For example, if you are a professional sumo wrestler compared to a professional ballerina, then the diet's going to look totally different. You need to maintain a 400-pound frame if you are a sumo wrestler, okay? And contrary to the myth, they actually eat a very, very healthy whole food diet. It's just huge in volume, enough that would probably feed me and you for a week. And but yeah, they need to perform like an athlete, so they can't be eating shit like Mackie D's and chocolate eggs all week. I don't know why I said chocolate eggs. It's not even Easter. Maybe I got a craving. This cut's hitting me hard, man. This cut's hitting me hard. But yeah, it is subjective. So I hate it when someone says, I'm eating healthy. No, you're not. You're not eating healthy, because look at you. Okay? Wake up and smell the coffee. Healthy isn't accurate either. It won't get results. So again, if you're looking to actually change your body composition, eating healthy is way too broad to see any significant changes. It doesn't give you enough focus. It doesn't give you enough specificity in terms of what you should be doing with your diet. You could eat pretty much a plant-based natural food diet, but you could still be consuming 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day. Okay, it's going to be hard and you're going to feel full as fuck. And, quite frankly, you deserve to be fat if you're eating that much. I joke. But, essentially, calories are king. And this is actually proven in a study. Now, probably the stupidest study I've ever heard, but it does kind of put a good point out there where I don't know his name. I don't know what the study was called. You can go and find it on Google Scholar, I imagine. But I know you're not here to get the references. I did enough of that at university. I will never write another reference again. But the Twinkie diet. So essentially a man for 30 days straight ate nothing but Twinkies. However, he kept his caloric consumption below his BMR, meaning he actually lost weight, even whilst eating Twinkies every single day. Now, I imagine that guy was super hungry. He probably had 3 or 4 less teeth by the end of it. And he probably smelled like a donut, which isn't actually a bad thing. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend doing this, but it's just to sort of highlight the importance of calories overall. So your BMR and macro needs. Now, this is where the specificity and individualism, yes, I cannot say that word properly, but the individualism definitely comes into play because, again, I'm 5'8". I'm a short king. Yes, I'm bulky. Yes, I'm muscular. Yes, I'm active. So that actually bumps my caloric needs up to, we're probably saying a BMR of around 2,500 to 3,000. But you compare me to the likes of Eddie Hall, who is twice the man of me. He probably, he could probably consume me in one fucking bite. The guy's massive. And he's not even the biggest guy in his sport. But still, just to give you some reference, that guy was eating close to 10,000 calories just to maintain his weight when he was the world's strongest man. And I believe he's still in the upper entrance. What am I fucking trying to say? I'm trying to use smart words. I'm not using smart words today. The upper range of around 7,000 to 8,000 calories just to maintain his weight. Now that is an incredible amount of food. That's huge. But it just again shows the individualism of what your needs are. So the best way to do this is use an online calculator to get a good estimate. You then work towards that estimate. And after a week, if you're losing weight, then you're in a deficit. If you're gaining weight, you're in a surplus. If you're maintaining weight, you've hit the sweet spot, and now you can adjust from here. Now, I'm not talking to you today about how to actually build a fat loss diet, because that will take us on far too long. We can do that in another video. Today's all about just understanding portions and portion control. Protein's super important as well. So again, without going on to it too much, around a gram per body weight of a pound of body weight is ideal. So if I weigh 150 pounds, I'm going to aim for about 150 grams of protein per day. And the other reasons are that it is super, super satiating, it keeps you full, and it is the building blocks for your muscles, which in turn, if you're building muscle, your metabolism increases, meaning you can eat more whilst doing fuck all. Win-win. Calories are king, as I've just mentioned, and remember that your BMR changes depending on your expenditure. So if you're quite consistent with your training, your activity through the day, you're consistently hitting 8 to 10k steps, you're training, 4 to 5 times a week, you can be quite confident that your BMR doesn't change too much, and it will change gradually as you build muscle. But if you're someone who, some days you're in the office, some days you're on site, you're very sporadic with the gym, you might hit a HIIT class here and there, and you take your BMR from a day where you're super active, then on the days that you're not active, that's where you're going wrong, because that's where your caloric needs massively drop, because you're not fucking using them. Therefore, over the week, over the course of the week, over the course of the month, etc., you're not in a deficit as you may have thought. The power of tracking. So I am a believer that tracking isn't something you want to be following forever. It's not a way to live. It's not very convenient. However, when you're making a change in what you're doing, when you're trying to achieve a sort of change, particularly in the body shape, because that's what we're all trying. We're all trying to look like hunky motherfuckers who could walk onto a beach and a woman would drop her panties right in front of us. Or a man, if you're into men. Sometimes I am. It depends what day it is. But, we've all got our man crushes. And sometimes I think about Zac Efron on Baywatch. What a guy. I joke. I'm completely straight. But what I'm trying to say is to track is important, because if you're tracking, or if you start to track, let's rewind. If you want to make a change in your current diet to change your body, you're going to have to become aware of what that amount of food looks like. Because if I go from a lean bulk diet where I'm eating 3,000 calories and, I become familiar with the meals I'm making, the size of the meals, and I want to keep the same sort of foods in there, then of course I'm going to have to reduce the amount that I'm eating. But to make sure that I don't go too small or too hard, then I must track to see if I'm making the right adjustments. And this comes great from a recent, I'm on a prep for a bodybuilding show at the moment, and to implement tracking really showed me actually I was eating quite a lot more than I thought, and I've had to make quite a number of adjustments which I wouldn't have made without the tracking to actually get me to my macro goals. So it increases that awareness, and of course with that it makes you more accurate with your food choices, with your portions. It is also simple to do. So simple. People get in their own heads and overwhelm themselves like it's this big task, like they're trying to put together a nuclear code. And what's wrong with you? There's apps nowadays. There's fucking apps. You just type in the food that you're eating and it comes up with the macros. And it even saves that food so that tomorrow when you have a very similar meal, you can enter it again. Don't be so fucking lazy. I hate it when people say, I don't have time to track. We're not doing this forever. You want to make a change, you've got to do something different. If not, then get comfortable with being fat. All right? I'm thanks harsh today, aren't I? Maybe it's because I'm on the lower calories, I'm getting a little bit grouchier, but it all speaks true. And I actually believe tracking, not the actual task itself, not the action itself, but overall tracking, the education it builds, the awareness it builds, gives you more freedom. More freedom in the sense that you get to stay in shape, you get to work towards your goals while still being flexible with your food. Because let's say you're going out for food today and you want to make sure that you save enough calories for that delicious Neapolitan pizza oozing in cheese and tomato sauce. And you track what you eat and you see, I've now got 1,100 calories left for this pizza. Boom! Hooray! Amazing. But if you continuously avoid tracking, you guess, and you're actually quite close to your overall caloric needs, then you go out for the pizza and you're doing that way too often, then again, you ain't going to change. Your body's going to look shit for the rest of your life. And, you're just going to be a tubster forever. Harsh again, I know. Boom! So the quality of food choices is also important. I did say calories was king, but for me, this is the next most important thing. Because yes, okay, on paper, if you stick to that calorie deficit, fantastic. You can do it any way you want. You're going to lose that body fat. You're going to lose the weight. You're going to get in the shape you want to. But you can make things a damn sight easier for yourself if you eat good quality food. Not only that, but I am a strong believer that a good quality whole food diet will produce a way better, way more aesthetic, way more energized body and physique than one that is built on processed foods. I'm pretty damn confident. Ultra processed foods, that is. Okay, because pretty much everything now we have on our diet is processed. Unless you are someone who wears bamboo skirts, has a bow and arrow, and goes and hunts for their food every single day, then we eat processed foods. But ultra processed is things that just don't naturally occur. So try and have your diet around 80 to 90% whole food based. I'm not Hitler. I'm not going to tell you not to eat that Kit Kat. I'm not going to tell you to cut out the potato chips. I'm not going to tell you to say no and become teetotal. Just be more considerate. Just be more conscious. Be more moderative. Protein quality is also super important. So again, your best sources of protein are going to come from meat itself. Eggs are another fantastic source, such as whey protein too. When you start to go into plant proteins, there's a lot more discrepancy, and that protein then doesn't get utilized for actually what you want it to be. So make sure the most of your protein, at least 75%, is coming from a good quality source of protein that you can be confident that is going to be processed in the right manner. And then hunger versus craving control. This goes back to just having good quality food choices. If you have whole food based diet, one, the volume is going to be much higher, but two, the actual digestion process is going to be a lot slower, meaning you're going to stay fuller for longer. If you're just filling yourself up on Twinkies and McDonald's all day, then fucking hell, I imagine you get hungry every 2 hours. Your breath probably smells like cheese ass, and you're probably not very fit. Portion control. So just to give you some really simple tactics here. 30 grams of protein per meal. All right. What does that look like? It looks like about 150 grams of lean protein, which in essence is around one large chicken thigh, one medium-sized chicken breast, a typical portion of beef mince. Okay. In terms of carbohydrates, what we're looking at is around 200 to 250 calories of carbohydrates per meal if you are on a balanced diet. Okay. Remember, this isn't for you keto nutters out there. This is for people who actually like carbohydrates and want to improve their performance in sport and the gym and actually feel good. Fuck you, keto lot. But yeah, 1 serving of carbohydrates per meal is good. That's around 200 to 250 calories. Okay, we're looking at around 60 grams of uncooked rice and pasta. Eating out. So this, once you master your plate, once you get a great idea for what your plate should look like, eating out becomes less of a chore and more of an enjoyment experience. God, I just threw up in my mouth a little bit. But yeah, essentially what you can do here is, you know, you've got freedom now. You know what a plate looks like. You know how to make good choices. You can eat out a little bit more often because you're not going to be shooting yourself in the foot by getting a indulgent, grease-filled meal that's just going to leave you fat and miserable forever. Consistency and balance. So I'll run through this really quickly because I have already got a video on this. But you should look at your calories more as a weekly target rather than a daily target. This will help you balance across the week for when you do have those meals out, whether it's with work, whether it's for pleasure, when you do have those days where you might slip under on your calories and macros because you simply didn't have time to eat. And if you balance across the week and look at it that way, you're much more likely to stay consistent. Moderation versus restriction. Again, don't cut anything out of your food diet unnecessarily unless it is causing you harm or upsetting your stomach. There's no need to restrict anything from the diet. Just think about moderating those richer foods, the more indulgent foods, the one we would deem unhealthy. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Those who sprint a fat loss journey, those who sprint a diet, quite quickly fall off. You know, have you ever heard of anyone who's told you that they're on this really super extreme diet, say the same in 6 weeks' time? Or the guys who basically say, I'm on a new diet every single week. That's because they keep sprinting. It's because they can't maintain what they're currently doing. Think about, can you actually follow this for a long period of time? Of course, you're going to have to adjust things because if you stay in a deficit forever, you'll simply die and waste away. But if you can just stick to a diet that actually you enjoy, that actually doesn't leave you feeling like a zombie during a cut, yes, it might take a little bit longer, but damn, you are going to achieve way better results and way longer lasting results because you're learning how to manage that into your lifestyle as well. So what to do next? Well, if you didn't know already, I am a fitness coach. I'm an online coach by trade. I have plenty of experience in the floor as well. But now I just offer my services remotely. You can check out my page on Instagram, Training with Thomas. You'll see a lot of my client success stories on there, testimonials, a lot of my training methodologies, and a few funny yet informational short form content on there. And I'm always posting advice. I'm always helping through the DMs. You know, even if you don't work with me, I want to have some sort of impact on your fitness journey. So feel free to drop me a message and I will say hi every single time. Sorry, no dick pics this time. I've already been banned. I've already been banned from Instagram once. I don't want to do it again. Peace.